Mr. Sullivan, on count one, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Count two, I think the state is correct, merges into count one.
Jim Sullivan was sentenced to life without parole in the Georgia prison system. He was immediately sent to Reidsville, was the highest maximum security prison down there, the same prison that Harwood was in at the same time.
All of my memories of Lita are wonderful, great memories. You have to hold on to those memories of the good times in order to not think about the horrible outcomes. It was just a tragedy that such a beautiful person was lost for no reason but money.
In exchange for his testimony against James Sullivan, Tony Harwood struck a deal with the state of Georgia that would limit his sentence to 20 years. He was released from prison in May of 2018 after serving his full term. James Sullivan is currently serving out his life sentence in the Floyd County Correctional Institution. I'm Tamron Hall. Thank you for watching Someone They Knew.
Tonight on Closing Arguments in Portland, Oregon, romance thriller novelist Nancy Brophy accused of killing her husband, Chef Dan Brophy. Today, colleagues from the Culinary Institute where Dan taught testified for the state.
He was always there. He was always early. He was the most reliable instructor I ever dealt with.
Michael Barristone is accused of the attempted murder of two people. The defense rests after the testimony of a psychologist who says Barristone was suffering from a mental disorder and didn't know he was doing something wrong.
His biggest fear was that Lauren Canarak and Rob Goodwin would kill the children.
On the docket tonight in Fairfax, Virginia, we're gearing up for the trial of Johnny Depp versus ex-Amber Heard. Depp is suing Heard for defamation. Heard is suing back.
I was hitting you. It was not punching you.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
Plus, the Senate confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court today. So we asked you, our 13th juror, what impact will she have on the court? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of Closing Arguments starts right now. Good evening and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Michael Ayala in tonight for Vinnie Politan, and we begin tonight in Portland, Oregon, where romance author Nancy Brophy is on trial for the murder of her husband, Dan. On June 2nd, 2018, the body of Dan Brophy was discovered at the Oregon Culinary Institute, where he taught. Now, he had been shot twice, once in the back and then once in the chest. Now, today, Dan's father testified for the state and painted a picture of what Dan Brophy was like for this jury. Take a listen.
Do live life by example.
Okay. Did you ever get a chance to work with Dan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in what respect?
Well, that's what I'm asking. In what capacities did you get the chance to work with Dan?
Oh, mostly as he's older and married, at his house, in his yard, in his garage, in his house.
Okay. So helping him out around the house, doing things around the house?
Trying to, you know, if you can make sense out of the mayhem he lived with.
Yeah. Yeah, we've heard a little bit about his garden and the chickens and the garage and stuff. Would you categorize that as mayhem?
Mayhem in big time.
Okay. Did it seem to make sense to Dan, though?
Oh, yeah. None of it was a problem.
Yeah.
I think it's genetic, I decided. Karen's dad was very much that way. I'd try and straighten out his shop or tools, and then it disintegrated. Same is true with Dan. I spent years trying to get his shop and tools and stuff in order, with to no avail. And then his mother has pretty much the same problem.
Was Dan much into the tools in the shop, or was he more interested in the gardening and stuff?
More interested in the gardening. He was interested in the tools, but he spent his life looking for them.
In your opinion, did you, when looking at Dan and his work ethic, or just the amount that he was working, did you think that he worked a lot?
Oh, he worked a lot. He worked all the time.
Okay. And not just at work, where he was employed, but around the house too. Was he always busy?
Depends on what his interest level was at that given time. The chickens were top priority.
Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae is joining us now live from Portland, Oregon. All right, Julia, great to see you. Tell us more about Dan's father's testimony. He was an interesting character, funny guy, but clearly deadpan. I don't think he meant to be funny at all, but he was an interesting guy on the stand.
He really was, and he was engaging with this jury. They were chuckling along with the comments that he made, saying Dan's debris, the clutter that he said his son had, that was genetic. And there was even a moment where he talked about it being from the mom's side of the family, Karen Brophy. We also heard testify twice now. That was a moment between these jurors and Karen. They looked over to the mother of the victim as she's being described on the stand by the victim's father as someone who may have that messy gene as well. So he really did a good job of connecting with them. But he also highlighted some things that this prosecution wants to share with this jury about motive. He talked about what financial troubles this couple may have been in and what he understood about them from his vantage point. Take a listen.
Very.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, how quickly?
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Within a couple of days or like a couple of weeks?
Less than weeks.
Less than weeks?
Yes.
What about those chickens? Did she get rid of those?
Yeah, she got rid of those quite fast. We was amazed how that could happen so fast without having chicken stew.
Took me a second there.
They had bought a Prius, and Nancy was basically using that. And then somewhere down the line, it disappeared.
Okay, I want to talk, oh, sorry.
There was only one vehicle. And so at that point, we gave them the van, and there was only one stipulation on it. And that was that she changed the title.
He said that they loaned the couple $50,000 to start their own venture, and then they only got about a quarter of it back. They eventually just told the couple it was fine. They knew they weren't going to pay it back. He also talked about the different bedrooms he believed they stayed in. He said that debris, that clutter that he knew was indicative of his son, he started to see it in the downstairs bedroom, which made him believe that the wife was sleeping upstairs while the husband was sleeping downstairs.
Yeah, all in all, Julia, very effective witness, I thought, for the state. Gave them a lot of good information, gave life to the victim here. Really good stuff there. Now, Karen Brophy, Dan's mother, she was recalled today. She had been on the stand earlier, had some problems with memory, but did fine. What did she have to say when she took the stand again?
She was called again to now talk about a different portion of this case. Yesterday, she testified really focusing on how Nancy Brophy informed her about what happened to Dan Brophy. Today, it was more about the conversations that she may have had with Nancy on a larger sense before the death of Dan Brophy. Take a listen to how she said Nancy Brophy may have been complaining a bit about her husband.
And Nancy said to me, and she had about three times that year, that Dan had changed. But on the third time, she said to me, all he wants to do is lie on the couch and watch sports. That was not like Dan. It really wasn't. And rephrase the question, please.
Well, that's okay. And it's sort of been a build off what you're talking about. When she said that he just liked to lay on the couch and watch sports, you said that wasn't like Dan.
That wasn't like Dan.
you didn't believe her, or that you thought, or you
What I
believed her?
said to her was, I knew he was working 2 jobs. And I said to her, you know, he's over 60. I said, maybe he's just tired, Nancy. And I don't remember how she answered me.
Like you said, Michael, these are small nuggets, which by themselves wouldn't mean much. A wife talking about her husband not doing more around the house. But because it all builds towards what the prosecution is telling this jury about motive, that she was unhappy with the way things were at home. And both of these parents also said something that the jury was taking note of, writing notes that we could see about the fact that he didn't have a gun, that he hated guns, essentially. So they were surprised to learn that Nancy, along with Dan, had purchased a gun before the death.
Yeah, that relationship stuff really interesting as well, because one of the things I think the defense has been hinting at is that there was no acrimony in the relationship, that she always spoke well of him, and things were going fairly well for a couple of their age. And finally, Julia, the defense hinted, finally, I've been waiting for this, at some other possible suspects. How did that sort of come about today in court?
You know, they're obviously denying that this was Nancy Brophy, and they don't have any requirement to offer another suspect. We know jurors want to know. If you're saying this isn't the person who did it, this man who was a beloved chef, someone who was well respected in his field, being killed inside of a place that was not easy to get into. So on cross-examination, when we heard from 2 of the managers of that Culinary Institute, they were asked on cross-examination specifically about the population outside of that school and who may have had access. Take a look.
And why did you worry that a student could be the shooter?
We had a lot of students who were ex-military who had come to school on the GI Bill, some of which had multiple combat tours in Iraq or Afghanistan, and some of them suffered from PTSD.
I want to shift gears for just a little bit and ask you about live fire. You talked about the fact that this was a big deal for the students. Is that right?
That's correct.
Was it also a pretty stressful, a high stress day for students?
Absolutely.
Would it be fair to say there was a lot of traffic kind of around the school in terms of people, not actual cars?
Yes, especially during the day when the Lincoln High was in session. Those students would always be around, especially during the lunchtime for them.
And what about other populations, transient populations, camps, things like that over the years?
Sometimes there was a specific area close to the Lincoln High School bleachers where a couple of different groups over a few summers would hang out there in the good weather.
Sure. Did you ever have any problems, did the school have problems or any individual employees with the school?
No.
And specifically, we've heard and seen some testimony about there being an administration building that is separate from the culinary building. Is that
Correct.
right? Did you ever have any issues with people having to walk back and forth between those buildings?
What do you mean issues? I mean,
like with people walking through, transients in the area?
No, not really. They were always fairly.
Brian Wilkie there, he was the CEO of OCI, and he said that really wasn't a problem. He only once had an issue with a student who went into another student's locker, but it's beginning to be a theme on cross-examination. These jurors were also shown a layout of this school. It's something that seems that it wouldn't be easy for someone who wasn't familiar with the layout to be able to get through. This is first an exhibit recreation that we did of where Dan Brophy's body was found by investigators in Kitchen 1. And then when you look at the entire layout of this school, you see that there were 3 different kitchens, there were many hallways, and the red that you see, the red entrances, those are all the different doors that one of the employees on the stand today said that those doors automatically locked, and when someone unlocked the main one, they all unlocked. That was just the automatic way that it went.
All right, Julia Janae, thank you so much for that report. Truly appreciate it as always. I'll let you go now. I want to bring in my think tank. Joining us tonight in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Carmen Rowe. And in Orlando, Florida, criminal defense attorney Kyla Coleman. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Truly appreciate you taking out the time to be with me. I want to start off with you, Carmen, and talk a little bit about what we're seeing happening now with the state's case. I think I think they're trying a fantastic case, a lot of circumstantial evidence, but they're piling little nuggets, as Julia said, on top of each other. And I think they're painting a very strong picture that this is someone who had motive, opportunity, and the knowledge to commit this crime.
Michael, I couldn't agree more. I think they're doing a fantastic job, but I think they're pushing a lot on motive and less on how we're going to connect this individual to this crime. And I think it's critical that the defense is creating an alternate suspect that may be out there, because the jury's going to ask, if not her, then who? And so this is, you know, a situation where we have a significant prosecution case, but you have a lot of questions that are out there that this jury is going to want to know answers to. And so while we can put the victim out there as this tremendous person, there's still a lot of questions left on the table. So they're going to have to work to get where they want to get to by the time we get to verdict.
You know, Renee, the father painted a very nice picture on the stand of Dan. He was an engaging fellow, certainly credible in every way, talking about different things, perhaps these financial troubles, some problems or what might be problems in the relationship, maybe a growing sort of rift between the two. But again, those are things that as you move on in a relationship, not necessarily odd, but again, when you put it total together with all the circumstantial evidence, it can be pretty strong.
It can be very strong for the prosecution. Like you said, those building blocks is what the prosecution is going to depend upon to make their case here. But again, like Carmen said, there are issues here that the prosecution is going to have to deal with, because the defense is doing a good job with their cross-examination, and they are putting out there into the minds of the jurors that, you know, you had to have the access to this location and you had to know the layout in order to get to Mr. Brophy. So it gives light that this may have been someone who only could have access and know that information, and that the wife is not that person. So the prosecution is definitely going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that person. I mean, she's someone who was familiar with the school, so that may work in their favor as well as far as the state is concerned. Kyla, my thing is, you know, up to this point, I was wondering if the defense was going to actually provide this alternate theory of some sort. Because the question that I keep having about this, if it wasn't the defendant, then who would have wanted to kill this guy? We're not hearing anything about him that suggests someone might want to kill him. They're starting to suggest these other possibilities. How important is that in a defense's case, in a case like this?
Oh, yeah, it's super important, because if you're going to put the blame on someone else or point the finger somewhere else, you have to make it make sense for a jury. Jurors are looking for things that tie pieces of evidence together that just make sense. So if you say, hey, it might have been a transient person that came through, or it might have been a student that had PTSD and snapped, then that might make a jury believe, okay, it might not have been his wife, especially if they had a loving relationship for all of these years. The one thing that's been getting to me, though, is the way that the defense may play away at her having a gun and her being an author and having that gun for purposes of research and writing another novel. So I want to delve into that a little bit more and hear that theory of defense.
Well, of course, she is going to take the stand, so she'll have to explain for herself why she bought that gun. There was some explanation in opening statements that she bought it after the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman High School, that school massacre. She bought it for protection. There was some mention of that in opening statements, but again, she'll take the stand and have to explain it herself. All right, Think Tank, please stand by. Right now, we do have to squeeze in a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take you out to New Jersey, where former Olympian Michael Barristone is on trial for attempted murder. On the stand today, psychologists battle it out as the defense tries to convince the jury that Barristone acted in self-defense and suffered from temporary insanity. All that and more when we return, so keep it right here.
There was times where he was hilariously funny and charming and nice. And then there were days where you would just see him and he just looked angry. I heard him say, you know, I don't want a war. How do I fix this? How can I make this all better? I kind of wanted to know, so I walked over to him. Within the minute I started talking, he pulled out a gun and shot me once, twice, directly in the chest.
Welcome back. The defense rested their case today in the trial of Michael Barristone out in New Jersey. Now, Barristone is the Olympic equestrian charged with attempted murder after he shot Lauren Canarak and her fiancé, Robert Goodwin. Canarak was training with Barristone in the sport of dressage and lived on the defendant's farm as she trained. Now, the defense is claiming Barristone acted in self-defense and suffered from temporary insanity during the shooting. But here's the problem. When acting in self-defense, you are aware of your actions. And when you're insane, you're not. See the problem? Well, the defense is suggesting Canarak and Goodwin pushed Barristone over the edge by mentally abusing him. The final witness the defense called was a psychologist, Dr. Charles Hassan. Now, yesterday, he testified about the defendant's mental disorders, ultimately telling this jury that Barristone was delusional. Not only did Barristone perceive threats to his life and the lives of his girlfriend's children, but also his mental disorders impaired his ability to understand what he was doing was wrong. Take a look, see if you agree.
He had a distorted view that if the children were taken, if he and Mary Haskins were arrested, his biggest fear, which is, this is completely delusional, his biggest fear, I think, is delusional. His biggest fear was that Lauren Canarak and Rob Goodwin would kill the children. And in this particular case, Mr. Barristone scored extremely high on scale 6. He had a T-score of 90.
And what is scale 6 again? I forgot.
Paranoia, I'm sorry.
And what does that 90 score and that 105 score indicate to you as a psychologist with regards to Michael Barristone's mental state?
Well, not just to me. Any psychologist who did work on the MMPI would look at that to say that there's a very high likelihood of a delusional disorder, a psychosis, a break with reality.
Did you form an opinion with regards to Michael Barristone's state of mind at the time of the incident?
Yes, I did.
And is that opinion to a degree of psychological medical certainty?
Yes, it is.
What is your opinion with regards to Michael Barristone's state of mind at the time of this incident?
At the time of the shooting, he did not know what he was doing was wrong.
All right, well, it doesn't end there. There's a lot more to this story, but right now, we'll get to that in a second. Let's bring back in the think tank to discuss. Still with me, criminal defense attorneys Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, and Kyla Coleman. Kyla, I'll start with you. This is a tough defense to sell a jury. I mean, obviously, you're trying, again, they almost feel diametrically opposed. This doctor went up, I thought he did a pretty good job of explaining the disorder and how it all kind of works together. Your thoughts on whether this jury is going to buy that explanation?
Man, I mean, he was pretty believable to me. It's up to the jury to weigh the credibility of any witness that's up on the stand. And apparently this is an expert. And he said that, you know, this man did not know what he was doing at that time. But the good thing about this case is that when you watch Mr. Barristone throughout this entire trial, you kind of see his mental health declining. You see him looking, you know, very sad, downtrodden. Just each day he's coming in looking beat up. So when you're able to see the actual defendant and what he's going through, coupled with the evidence and the expert testimony on the stand, hey, they just might buy it.
Yeah, a lot of people questioning his appearance, Carmen. He looks the part. He certainly does. And, you know, when you pair that along with what we're hearing on the stand from that particular witness, some of it kind of comes together.
Michael, it can and it can't. I think it plays both ways, right? Some jurors would say he's playing a role. Some people would say that maybe this is real. But this is a tough sell for any jury. I mean, the truth is most people don't understand mental health issues, and they're very complicated when they meet the intersection of the legal system that doesn't really allocate for things like paranoia and schizophrenia. It's like, at the time, did he understand what he was doing was wrong? And simply being paranoid doesn't get us there. And so this is going to be a tough sell for this jury, and it always is when you bring mental health issues in there. And then you pair that, as you said, with a self-defense issue. It's like, did he know or didn't he know? So I think this is going to be difficult for the jury when you apply his mental health issues, which I think are real, with the law that we have in this country, which doesn't really provide a space for what he seems to be suffering under.
You know, I couldn't agree more. I'm usually on an earlier show, and I had a whole segment with a couple of doctors talking about that very thing, this idea that the law, there's this gap between insanity, right, and culpability that the law doesn't address. And this might be one of those guys, Renee Hill.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that this conflict that I'm having with the self-defense or the mental defect is going to be difficult for the jury as well. It just doesn't make sense. Did he understand what he was doing? How far was he pushed? And yes, he does look extremely haggard in the courtroom and down and depressed. And I think that the jurors will certainly notice that because they are always looking at the defendant throughout the trial. But it's going to be a tough one in this case. You know, the scores that the doctor spoke about, that anyone would find that he had a mental break, but is that going to be enough for this jury to say he did not know what he was doing at the time he pulled the trigger? That's going to be hard.
We saw this in the Waffle murder case, that the one where the guy shot up the Waffle House. Same exact thing, that he was sort of delusional, had all these problems, didn't know what he was doing at that time, but there were other actions that suggested he didn't know exactly what he was doing. Jury didn't buy it there, not sure they're going to buy it here. And it got tougher, because after the defense rested on rebuttal, the state called their own forensic psychologist, a Dr. Louis Schlesinger, I think was his name. And what I want to do now is listen to some of what he had to say, because he got fairly passionate during his testimony, especially when talking about how the defense expert might have gotten it wrong regarding the defendant's diagnosis.
Scale 6, for example, is labeled paranoia. If you have a high elevation on scale 6, that does not mean the person is paranoid. As a matter of fact, most, not all, but most flagrantly paranoid individuals don't score high on that at all. And if you look at Butcher's book, I showed the prosecutor, I don't know if any of that came out, but anyway, he has a section that says the literal do not literally interpret these scale names. And the first sentence is, if you do, you're poorly trained. That's not me, that's Butcher saying that. So if you think a high elevation on scale 6 means you're paranoid, it means one thing according to Butcher: you're poorly trained. You don't understand what's going on. And if you read the description from Butcher on an elevation on scale 6, it's nothing about delusions and all the rest of it. So when I hear, for example, in Dr. Hassan's report, and I do not want to be disrespectful at all, and I'm trying my best not to be, and I don't want to be, but he said something to the effect, I don't know anybody that would look at this high scale 6 and interpret it anything different than paranoid psychosis. Really? I don't know anybody that would, including Butcher, who wrote the book on it. So it's just incorrect.
All right, Kyla Coleman, a telltale sign when someone says they don't want to be disrespectful, guess what? They're being disrespectful. Because
exactly.
Right? And that's exactly what it was. He was basically saying, you read this all wrong, buddy, you're all wrong. He also went on to say that he was using outdated tests. I mean, really undercutting the testimony of the defense's expert. They had to have anticipated this, no?
Yeah, I mean, because typically they're taking depositions or things of that nature up until this point when you have witnesses deemed experts. But, I always go back to the practicality of it and how much a witness or a jury should weigh the credibility of a witness. You have a guy that's up there speaking in regular terms, like how a jury might speak, very animated, very big movements, and very confident when he speaks. So a jury's going to look at that and, think maybe he knows what he's talking about more than the defense's expert. He was very, very believable to me. I think it's really going to be tough for this jury to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, if they were hoping that guy was going to win the day, I don't think he did. All right, think tank, stand by. We do have to take a quick break, but here's a look at what's still ahead on Closing Arguments. On the docket tonight in Fairfax, Virginia, we're gearing up for the trial of Johnny Depp versus ex-Amber Heard. Depp is suing Heard for defamation. Heard is suing back.
I was hitting you. It was not punching you.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
Plus, the Senate confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court today. So we asked you, our 13th juror, what impact will she have on the court?
Johnny was hitting me, and he was hitting me hard and repeatedly.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard.
This is going to be one of those big trials to watch.
You have these big celebrities that are going to be testifying.
Their reputations are at stake.
Johnny Depp was not successful across the pond, but he's got a second bite of the apple, this time in the United States.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Live coverage starting Monday morning at 9, 8 Central on Court TV.
Hey, Johnny, good to see you. The ultimate A-list star. You have the best reputation amongst all the press. You know that? Is that right? Yeah, everyone loves dealing with you. I had no idea.
We are just days away, folks, from the start of Johnny Depp's defamation trial in Fairfax, Virginia. The actor is suing his ex-wife Amber Heard for $50 million over an op-ed that she wrote for the Washington Post back in 2018. Depp claims the op-ed falsely implies he abused her, though the article didn't mention Depp by name. Now, Depp claims the piece damaged his reputation and cost him roles in films including the Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beasts series. Now, in response, Amber Heard filed a $100 million defamation suit against Johnny Depp. Heard is claiming that the op-ed contains only the truth and that Depp abused her on multiple occasions. The counterclaim also says Depp defamed her by calling her a liar and a hoaxer. Now, inevitably, a lot of dirty laundry will be aired during this trial. There will be some collateral damage. Famous friends of the toxic couple are on the witness list for both sides. And in the end, like it or not, there will be winners and losers no matter what the jury decides. So who will be the winners and the losers in this case? Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, all the famous people on their witness list? Well, we're going to talk about it. Still with me to break this all down, Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, and Kyla Coleman. And Renee, let me start with you. Who do you think is going to be a winner? Now, when I talk about winners and losers, I'm not just talking about what the jury decides. I'm talking about reputation, all the things that's going to be learned about private communications that will no longer be private after this trial. All of that, reputation, you name it. Johnny Depp, winner or loser?
I think they're both going to lose here in that aspect because the dirty laundry is going to be aired. Things that have not been spoken about before are going to come out. And although this is not a criminal trial, this is a civil trial, and depositions have been conducted already. So the parties have been deposed, and each side knows pretty much where they want to go in their line of questioning. And it's going to be no holds barred. Everything is going to come out because this is a defamation trial. And it's all about what you said that hurt me, that damaged my reputation. So they're going to talk about everything. And I think that's going to ultimately hurt the both of them.
Yeah, Carmen Rowe, you know, this is a defamation trial, but in many ways it's almost like a divorce trial, right? I mean, the emotions are running so high. We know that type of thing can get very, very ugly. Kind of expecting that to happen here. Your sense of who the winners and losers might be between Depp and Heard?
Michael, it changes from day to day. The more we learn, the more interesting this case gets. I mean, but for today, I'm going to say Johnny Depp, because we're learning more and more about the other side of the story, the version we haven't heard, which suggests that, you know, she may be verbally and physically abusive with Johnny Depp. And so if that's the case, I mean, she's put this narrative out there as being a 100% victim. And all of a sudden, you know, he becomes the underdog. People start picking sides. So today, I'm saying Johnny Depp.
Wait, now, Johnny Depp or Amber Heard? Because you're saying all that information is going to come out about what she's done in previous relationship, what she did in this relationship. She even has a criminal record, I believe, based on that type of physical abuse in a relationship. So you're talking about Johnny Depp being hurt more or her?
No, I think Johnny Depp comes out ahead because all we've heard so far is that he lost in the UK. He's the abuser. Everybody sustained her complaints. And we've never really heard the other side of things. Well, we're now seeing video and audio that comes out that suggests that she was verbally abusive, that she was physically abusive, and that she didn't think it was a big deal. Well, that's a different narrative than we've ever heard. And I think it puts Johnny in a different kind of situation than what we thought he was in before. And I think he's going to come out ahead if that continues to be a narrative that comes out and is unraveled in the course of this proceeding.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think on that level, he's certainly going to be a winner. Kyla Coleman, I want you to ring in now on who you think might be the winners and losers in this situation.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that she's been seen as this angel that could do no wrong. But when you listen to the audio, which will come out, she admits to hitting him. He's like, you punched me. She's like, no, I hit you. So she's admitting it. It doesn't matter if it's an open hand, a closed hand. You still admitted several times that you've hit this man. So I think we talk a lot about what happens when a woman is scorned, but we never talk about what happens when a man is scorned. And Johnny's ready. He's prepared. He's filed his case, and I think he's gonna prevail.
Yeah, I want to continue along that line because I've had this conversation with many, many friends. And the issue that comes up is what exactly does it mean to be an abuser, right? Because what he has to prove, what Johnny Depp has to show, at least by a preponderance of the evidence, is that he didn't abuse her, right? So what exactly is abuse? Is it hitting one time? Many of my friends say, well, it's a serial situation. Or if she was hitting him first and he hits her back, does that make him an abuser? Renee Hill, I want you to ring in on that. What exactly, what is this jury going to be told about what it means to be a wife beater or an abuser?
That's really interesting. You know, is there a real definition for abuse in that fashion? Men are abused all the time. I've had clients who were the victims of abuse, and the woman would try to say that she was the one, but it really turned out to be the husband or the boyfriend in the relationship that was being abused. So if he is defending himself in a situation, does that make him an abuser? No. It could be verbal abuse. She could be abusing him verbally all the time. And we know from the audio tape that has been played that she acknowledged that she's hitting him, and she's downplaying it in that, and that is going to help him. That's definitely going to come out. Other dirty laundry about Johnny is going to come out as well, but like Carmen said, he prevails in the sense that she has put forth this fact that he has abused her, and now Johnny is coming out with his evidence saying, no, you're the one who was abusing me. And I think that the jurors will see that, and we talked about this last week, and I said when he starts coming out with things that people haven't heard before, I think that Amber will have a very difficult time with her counterclaim in this case.
Interesting. You know, there's a lot of ugly things that Johnny Depp wrote to in his emails and texts, but I think I'm not going to put him in a good light. Let's move on now to some of the other people involved. Elon Musk, Paul Bettany, James Franco, they all appear on Amber Heard's witness list. Now, we don't know what their testimony will be, but court documents mention two of these famous men and provide some clues. Johnny Depp's complaint suggests Amber Heard was seeing Elon Musk, and it reads in part, unbeknownst to Mr. Depp, no later than 1 month after his marriage to Ms. Heard, she was spending time in a new relationship with Tesla and SpaceX founder Elon Musk. Musk's first appearance in Mr. Depp's penthouse occurred shortly after Ms. Heard threw a vodka bottle at Mr. Depp in Australia when she learned Mr. Depp wanted the couple to enter into a post-nuptial agreement concerning assets in their marriage. Now, Ms. Heard violently aimed the projectile, virtually severed Mr. Depp's middle finger on his right hand and shattered the bones. Actor Paul Bettany, known for starring in the Marvel Disney series WandaVision, is mentioned in Amber Heard's countersuit, which says in 2013, Mr. Depp texted his friend, actor Paul Bettany, the following: "Let's burn Amber. Let's drown her before we burn her. I will blank her, burnt corpse, after to make sure that she is dead." And of course, Mr. Franco is alleged to have had an affair with Heard. All right, think tank, let's get back in. All of those folks, winners or losers in this. Elon Musk has a lot to lose. One of the richest men on the planet. He's in the middle of this spat, Renee Hill. What's going to happen to him?
Well, you know what? He's being called as a witness, right? He's going to come in. He's going to give the testimony. He'll be cross-examined. And that's it. Some people may not like what he has to say, but if he's truthful, that's all you can get out of him. He has to give his truth as he knows it and get back off the stand. I don't think, that he'll be painted in any certain light unless he's really, if you can see that he's really leaning towards and fabricating things in favor of one party or the other, then that's going to put him in a very bad light if he does that. But if he comes in and he's truthful, that's all you're going to get from it.
Carmen, real quickly, winners or losers there in that group of folks?
Lose-lose. I mean, who would want to be part of this toxic relationship, period? Lose-lose.
I would have to agree. I think all of them are going to lose. None of them are looking, are going to be painted in a good light. All right, stand by, please. Now, I want to give a quick reminder to you folks, Court TV cameras, of course, will be inside the courtroom for this trial, which is set to begin Monday, April 11th. And lead anchor Vinnie Politan will be live in Virginia next week as this trial gets underway. We do have to squeeze in a break, but when we come back, it'll be time to hear from you, our 13th juror.
$41.36.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and the motion is agreed to.
Welcome back. I am proud to report that history was made today. Ketanji Brown Jackson is now confirmed as the first black female Supreme Court justice. This will also be the first time that the Supreme Court has 4 women on the bench. The Harvard College and Harvard Law School grad was appointed to the federal courts in 2013 before President Barack Obama nominated her for the district court. She was appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit by President Joe Biden. She also clerked for the Justice Stephen Breyer. Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed with a vote of 53 to 47, as you heard, mostly along party lines. Jackson will be seated later this summer when Justice Stephen Breyer officially retires after 22 years of service. Now, we posted about today's Supreme Court confirmation to our social media pages, and we asked you, the 13th juror, what impact do you think Ketanji Brown Jackson will have on the court? And we begin with our 13th juror comment of the day from Rhonda, who says, sadly, not much in the final outcome of decisions, but she adds a greatly needed, unique, and diverse perspective to the bench, and that terrifies some people. All right, think tank, I want to bring you in. Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Kyla Coleman. I'll start with you, Carmen Rowe. Your reaction to this finally happening. Certainly she will have an impact, and as that viewer said, maybe not on decisions at this point, but certainly overall.
Certainly, Michael, you're absolutely right, and so is the viewer. I mean, look, we're going to see a lot of dissenting opinions coming from her, I'm sure, but look, this is a historical moment that everyone should celebrate, not just because of her tremendous credentials, but she is a woman of courage that we have seen over the last couple of weeks just demonstrate the awe, the inspiration of being a lawyer, a judge, and now a justice on the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, that impact goes far beyond what's going to happen in those rooms. Our next comment comes from Jenny, who writes, that is awesome news. I am sure she will have a positive impact. And you know, Kyla, what was interesting, and you know, I didn't know this when we first started learning about Ketanji Jackson, at the end of the day, I didn't realize that she would be the first person from the defense side of the bar to be on the court. That has to be important and influential as well.
Absolutely, and that's where the diversity comes in. When you have not only a defense attorney, but someone who was a public defender, I mean, she was acting as part of our Constitution here by providing people a lawyer when they don't have money. Like, this says so much about her character. And I'm just gonna add, Michael, African-American, natural hair, interracial marriage, mom, wife, she just has so much diversity outside of the legal field that speaks to her character. People like her, I know, will be able to go in, be confident in their own shoes, in their own skin, and really make a name for herself on the bench. I am proud, and I can't stop smiling. I'm trying not to mess up my makeup, so I'm not gonna cry tonight.
You know, I'm with you. I was just so proud, and she's such an impressive woman. Now, our next comment comes from Sherry. She says, not much really. The makeup is still the same. It's mostly about politics anyway. Renee Hill, I want to give you a chance to ring in quickly. And, you know, even the fact that she's in the minority now, certainly the liberal minority, I think just her perspective in that room has to make a difference.
I think her perspective is going to make a difference. The village is proud. Black girl magic is what this is all about. And yes, bringing the defense side to the bench, having had that experience, is certainly going to bring a new perspective into that room when they are speaking. And she may be dissenting on a lot of opinions, but it's going to open their eyes up to a different world that they haven't seen. There are 3 prosecutors, I think, on the Supreme Court right now, and now there's a defense attorney or prior defense attorney there. It will make a difference eventually.
Absolutely. And lastly, let's get to our last comment from Valerie. She says her impact, first and foremost, is history has been made. And she is definitely going to make a change in defending our America, white and black, in my opinion. And you know what? I think I'm just going to leave it there for tonight. Again, I want to thank you ladies for joining me tonight. Truly appreciate it. Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Kyla Coleman, really enjoyed having you guys on the show. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll have you again soon. All right. We have to step aside now for a quick break, but at the top of the hour, we're going to take a look at some new details we've uncovered in the kidnapping and death of Naomi Irion, bring in our investigators and speak to Naomi's mother when we come back. So keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. In Fernley, Nevada, the weeks-long search for Naomi Irion ended tragically when her body was discovered. Troy Driver has been charged with her murder, and now new court documents reveal details of what happened to Naomi.
I'm jubilant because they caught someone and have a truck that matches the description, but I'm terrified it's not the right one.
In tonight's Unsolved Case File in Bardstown, Kentucky, Crystal Rogers was reported missing in 2015. Just a year later, her father, Tommy Ballard, is shot and killed. Our investigators weigh in as we try to solve this mystery.
I have begged for this. I've made it my mission in life to get more help for Crystal's case.
In San Antonio, Texas, officers are pursuing a suspect when he pulls a gun. How did they handle it? We break down the video with our experts. In Atlanta, Georgia, officers work together to apprehend car thieves. What goes into this kind of coordination? Our law enforcement experts weigh in during crime time.
He's still hiding in the bushes. He's trying to come out now, though. I need to keep eyes on him. He's walking. He just tossed like a hat, I think.
Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of Closing Arguments starts right now. Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Michael Ayala, in tonight for Vinnie Politan. And tonight, we have new details in the tragic death of Naomi Irion. Police have revealed what they believe to be the cause of death. And more on that in a minute. But first, Vinnie Politan gets us caught up on the case.
On March 12, 2022, at approximately 0509 hours, Naomi parks at the Fernley Walmart. At 0524 hours, the suspect approaches Naomi's vehicle. And at 0525 hours, Naomi's vehicle leaves the Walmart parking lot with the suspect driving the vehicle.
10 days after she went missing, the Lyon County, Nevada Sheriff's Office told the public about 18-year-old Naomi Irion. She had been abducted from a Walmart parking lot. She was last seen on surveillance video at a convenience store before taking her car to the Fernley Walmart, where she parked to catch a bus to go to work at Panasonic. Police released this surveillance video of the man they believe kidnapped Naomi. They say the man pushed Naomi into the passenger seat of her car and then took off. That car was located 3 days later at a paint plant near the Walmart where she was abducted. But there were no signs of Naomi.
We need news. We need to find her.
Naomi's family was desperately awaiting a break in the case, which came on March 25th. Just days after police released this image of a pickup truck they believed had a direct connection to Naomi's whereabouts. The Lyon County Sheriff's Office announced in a press release that they had arrested 41-year-old Troy Driver and were holding him on charges of kidnapping. It was news that Naomi's mother, Diana, says was met with a mixture of emotions.
I'm jubilant and terrified. I'm jubilant because they caught someone and have a truck that matches the description, but I'm terrified it's not the right one.
Not only was she afraid police may have arrested the wrong guy, but there was still no information on where Naomi might be.
You must give up my daughter's location. Please give my daughter back to me. Please.
Unfortunately, Naomi would not be returned safely to her mother. The Lyon County Sheriff's Office announced on March 30th a tip had led them to a possible gravesite where they found remains that they have now confirmed to be Naomi Irion. Driver is currently being held in the Lyon County Jail on a $750,000 bond.
Troy Driver is now facing 5 criminal charges in the state of Nevada, and these include first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon, kidnapping in the first degree, robbery, burglary of a motor vehicle, destroying evidence on the count of first-degree murder, and the complaint included new information, including how Naomi died. And it reads, the defendant did kill Naomi Irion with a deadly weapon, namely a firearm, by shooting her on the kidnapping charge. The document states the defendant did abduct Naomi Irion and did hold or detain her and did carry her away to the location in northern Churchill County, Nevada, for the purpose of committing sexual assault and or for the purpose of killing her. And it also revealed that driver buried her body and destroyed her cell phone. All right, let's bring in tonight's guest. Joining me in Palm Springs, California, retired FBI special agent and producer on Indivisible, Healing Hate, streaming on Paramount Plus, Bobby Chacon. In Chicago, Illinois, private investigator Erica Morse. And also joining us in Reno, Nevada, a special guest, Naomi's mother. Diana is with us and joining us. I believe she's on the phone. Oh, no, she's not. She's actually on there. Diana, thank you so much for being with us tonight. First and foremost, the condolences from everyone here at Court TV. Certainly, it cannot be easy for you, so we really appreciate you coming on. And I guess what everyone wants to know is how are you doing? How are you holding up?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on tonight. Thank you for your condolences. I'm doing as well as you might have expected. Yesterday was a very bad day because we found out the manner of her death and what that monster did to her. And I did not take it well at all. So it made me physically ill for most of the day.
You know, we do what we do here on Court TV to help bring closure to families like you. And you know, it's never easy. But I wonder if on some level, it's better knowing rather than not knowing. Do you have some sense of, with all that you're feeling, is at least you now know, and there maybe can be some closure? And that's a question.
Yes, I think it is better to know the answer to what happened to my daughter than spending the rest of my life wondering where she was, what could have happened to her. This way we can take her home and bury her next to her brother, and they'll be together. And it's better for our family to have this opportunity to say goodbye.
I'm so happy. I'm glad that you're able to get something positive out of this. I also understand there are a number of memorials have sprung up in various places. Are you connected with those in any way? Do you know anything about those?
No. The ones I'm connected with are this Sunday here in Fernley, Nevada, the out-of-town park. We're having a celebration of life from 5 to 7. And then on Tuesday, we're taking her home to Houston, Texas, to have a formal funeral and burial.
All right. Now, Diana, I know during the investigation, there was some suggestion that there was a little bit of pushback from police. Maybe the relationship wasn't that well. Now that there is an arrest and the charges are settling in, is there a relationship with police? Have they talked to you? Are you talking to them at all?
Yeah, we're in communication almost daily. You know, whatever happened in the beginning is irrelevant now because it was too late anyway. And I'm not going to worry about that too much. I just want to take my daughter home. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any hopes at all for this case? I won't even mention the gentleman's name, and I shouldn't even use the word gentleman, but the person who is being charged with these crimes. Obviously, do you have any hopes for that case and how that moves forward? Are you planning to keep tabs on that?
Yeah, I will be in South Africa, so I will be zooming into any hearings or things like that, but I'm not too sure that I'm going to partake of the trial itself unless I have a subpoena for testimony, because to be frankly honest, I don't want to hear the details of what that monster did to my baby.
You know, let me bring in my investigators here. Stand by, Diana, Bobby Chacon, Erica Morse. Bobby, I want to begin with you because while this person has been caught and charges have been levied, clearly this investigation isn't over. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Well, sure, but it's a different phase of the investigation. Now it's a matter of working with the prosecutor's office and putting up on the board what we can show to a jury, what we're going to tell the jury through physical evidence, through forensic reports, and through witnesses that put in surveillance videos and things like that. You have to meet all the elements of the crimes that have been charged. I'm confident that they have that, or they wouldn't have filed those charges. So it's kind of a different phase of the investigation, and the mindset is a little different. Now it's all about, how we're going to show this to a jury, what we're going to tell the jury, and how we're going to secure those convictions. I'm confident that they have enough. This gentleman was in custody. This man was in custody, before on different charges, and then they upgraded the charges. So I'm sure as they moved along and were getting evidence, everything was pointing to the right person that they have now, and I'm confident that they'll get a conviction.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope they have the right guy and they're able to get this conviction. Erica, when I look at these kinds of cases, they scare me, this type of crime. And I'm wondering, I don't even know if you can answer this. It's just a question that I have regarding, someone who would commit this type of crime. My understanding is that, I think he targeted her. I'm not sure exactly what that means. He was very calculated in some of his cleanup acts after. What type of person commits this type of act?
Hi, Michael and Mom. Before I even answer that, I just have to give you my condolences and want to get back with you in just a second. The answer is a predator, just plain and simple. This wasn't a case where we as investigators on the outside had to build a profile, because law enforcement did such an amazing job solving this case and solving this case quickly. But the simple answer is a predator, somebody calculated, somebody who probably did this on a premeditated level, was very and extremely calculated and careful afterwards by removing the tires and destroying the cell phone. A lot of thought went into this. So this is someone who probably has done this before and would have done this again. Then let me shift to Mom. Diana, I want to go on something you just said, which is you not attending the trial. And you need to do what is ever in your best interest for self-preservation, because your job is done. That was out there being Naomi's voice while she was missing, and making sure that the family was there to represent how much she was loved and how much she was needed to be brought home. So now it is time to let the prosecutors and law enforcement wrap this up, do what they need to do, and you preserve your mental health and your sanity. A lot of parents don't want to hear these details, and you don't owe it to anyone to go and sit there and listen to them. So I'm very proud of you for making that very difficult decision, because not everyone understands that, and you owe that to no one.
I want to second that. I don't know, Diana, do you want to respond? But I definitely want to second that. The courage to understand you didn't need permission to do what you need to do for yourself. I want you to tell us a little bit about Naomi. We haven't done that yet. Tell us a little bit about her, if you're able.
Naomi was a bright, shining star of compassion and generosity and empathy. She gave without thought for her own self of both her finances and her time and her effort. She loved fiercely and intensely. She fought for people to have justice and equality, no matter what their sexual orientation, gender, race, ethnic background, class, poverty, rich. It didn't matter to her. If she saw an injustice, she stood up and she said something. That's the kind of person that she was. She loved everyone and she just wanted to help people. And this monster put out a bright, shining star of this world. And the world is a darker place without her in it.
The world certainly lost a bright, shining light. Bobby Chacon, one last question for you. Mom has made her decision in terms of her involvement. Is there any other role for the family to play in this? Family who are here may want to be involved. What role might they have going forward?
Well, there's probably a witness agency that can handle things for them and advise them on the different steps of what's happening in the trial. And then if there's a conviction, there'll be a sentencing phase. If they want to speak to the judge at sentencing, they can do that. They don't have to, certainly, but they certainly will have that opportunity. So I would say interface with those people that are responsible for keeping you up to date. You don't have to do anything. They do all the work for you. You can be as advised and updated as much or as little as you want. And they will take you through the steps of what's happening. And then they will tell you at the sentencing phase if you would like to present a statement to the court. You'll certainly be entitled to do that. And so I would say avail yourselves of those services so that you can participate as little or as much as you want. And there are people that are trained to show you that process. And I think that there's some comfort that you don't have to do a whole lot of the work. They'll do it for you. And again, as much or as little as you want to be involved, you can be and you should be according to however you feel.
Mom, I want to give you the last word. We have a couple of seconds left. Anything you want to leave us with?
Naomi was such an incredible person that the Foreign Service Youth Foundation has decided to make their first youth scholarship in her name. We are incredibly honored, and it's not going to be an academic-based scholarship. It's going to be a scholarship based upon compassion, caring, and service. And it's going to do incredible honor to Naomi and keep her memory alive.
What a wonderful way to honor her memory. That is really wonderful. Diana Irion, thank you so much for taking out the time. I know this is a very difficult time for you and being on our show. Truly, truly appreciate it. You have a nice night. On behalf of all of us here at Court TV, again, we're sorry for your loss. All right, we're gonna take a break right now. Bobby Chacon, Erica Morris, you're gonna stay with me right now. We're gonna step aside, and when we come back, I'm a little verklempt, I have to be honest with you. We're gonna come back, we're gonna bring the unsolved case file. So keep it right here on Court TV. Welcome back. Now is the time in our show when we open up our unsolved case file. And tonight, we're looking at the 2015 disappearance of Crystal Rogers. She's been missing for more than 6 years and is presumed dead at this point, but her remains have never been found. Plus, a year after Crystal disappeared, her father, Tommy Ballard, was shot and killed. Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan has more on both of these tragic cases.
In the small town of Barristone, Kentucky, Sherry Ballard lives with a heartbreaking double mystery. What happened to her 35-year-old daughter, and who gunned down her husband just 16 months later?
And I know in my heart, when my daughter's case gets solved, it's gonna solve my husband's.
Crystal Marie Rogers was a 35-year-old mother of 5. She was last seen on July 3rd, 2015. 2 days later, on July 5th, Rogers' mother reported her missing. The same day, her red Chevy Impala is found abandoned on Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire and keys in the ignition. Crystal's mother, Sherry Ballard, thinks the car was staged.
I think they placed my daughter's car on that BG. My daughter, I have never ever thought that my daughter was in that car.
In the weeks after her disappearance, investigators focused on Rogers' longtime boyfriend, Brooks Houck. According to police, he was the last person to see Rogers alive.
And it's not uncommon for them, when they go out and party, they stay out the better part of the night, if not the whole night.
Multiple searches of Houck's home and family farm turned up no connection to Rogers' disappearance. But just a few months after Crystal vanished, the Nelson County Sheriff's Office named Houck the main suspect in the case. Houck denies any involvement and has never been charged in this case. In a statement to Court TV, Houck's lawyer says he has always adamantly denied any involvement in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Out of respect for all those who are suffering, Brooks will not be making any further comments. However, Sherry Ballard has never doubted Brooks Houck is connected to her daughter's disappearance.
For me to see him walking around town, I just think in the back of my mind, it's not going to be forever. So try not to focus on the now and try to focus toward what's going to happen one day.
Meanwhile, the family continued its search, putting up posters around Bardstown, hoping for information that would help them solve the mystery of what happened to Crystal. Her father, Tommy Ballard, set up a Team Crystal Facebook page dedicated to finding his daughter and bringing her home. Then the unthinkable happened. On the morning of November 19th, 2016, just 16 months after his daughter's disappearance, Tommy Ballard is shot and killed while preparing for a hunting trip with his 12-year-old grandson. Police say an unknown suspect fired one shot into Ballard's chest, killing him. Despite a $10,000 reward, there have been no arrests in the case. Then, in July of 2020, just short of the 5-year anniversary of Crystal's disappearance, investigators uncovered evidence they hoped would unlock the mystery of what happened to Crystal Rogers. Human remains. Bones found by a creek in Nelson County, Kentucky. The discovery brought in the Louisville FBI, and the bones were sent for testing to FBI headquarters in Quantico, Virginia, where it was revealed the bones did not belong to Crystal Rogers, sending the case back to square one. But the FBI's involvement would renew hope that Crystal's case would eventually be solved.
See them come in. I have begged for this. I've made it my mission in life to get more help for Crystal's case. So to see it actually happening was very overwhelming.
Federal investigators would take a second look at Crystal Rogers' then-boyfriend Brooks Houck, sending in more than 150 state and federal officers to once again search the many properties he owned around town. This time, removing multiple guns, file cabinets, and boxes. And still, years after the mother of 5 disappeared, no arrests have been made.
I believe 100% 100% in my heart that Brooks Houck is responsible, and that's my opinion.
The FBI has set up a website at crystalrogerstaskforce.com, posting what they believe could be evidence in the case. Photos of a red SUV and another vehicle spotted at a number of investigation points. And this video taken the day after Crystal's disappearance on a road not far from Brooks Houck's home. Yet, despite many leads, so far, they have come up empty.
You always wonder, are they going to forget, the person missing? But they haven't. My community hasn't, and I'm very blessed with that.
If you have any information at all, folks, please call the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI. All right, still with us, retired FBI special agent and producer on Indivisible, Healing Hate, streaming on Paramount Plus, Bobby Chacon, and private investigator Erica Morse. Erica, let me start with you. Do you get the same sense that the mom has, that the murders are connected? I mean, it certainly seems that way, 16 months apart, two family members in an area where murders don't happen on a regular basis. Do you agree that that might be the case here?
100%. 99%, we'll just say that. This reminds me of the Wilbert and Linnell McCormick case out of Chicago, or out of Cleveland, where dad fought for answers and dad ended up being shot while out on a walk. Of course, these two cases are most likely connected. It won't be confirmed until one or both are solved. However, everything points in that direction. Tommy Ballard was extremely vocal about finding justice for his daughter, and was also getting very close, I think, to uncovering new information at the time of his death. And it is clear, based on the investigation, that someone actually parked and laid in wait for him while he was out hunting with his son and grandsons. So this was it did not appear to be a random shooting situation or a hunting accident. This appears to be very premeditated. I always tell families, families have this double-edged sword because they need to be out in front of the public eye. They need to be out talking to the press, and they need to make sure that their loved one's story isn't forgotten. On the flip side, those families need to be very careful. That's why private investigators can be very helpful. That's why victims advocates agencies can be very helpful. Parents should never do things like put their cell phone number on a flyer for a missing and murdered case or use their personal email. And I am not victim blaming here by any means. This is an unfortunate situation. It's also happened before with other cases, and it is so critical that when parents are looking for answers, they rely upon the trained individuals to help support them and guide them through the process of advocating for answers.
No, those are excellent practical points. No one, I don't think anyone would think you were victim blaming. Just incredible points. Bobby Chacon, at some point, bones were found. The FBI got involved. What triggers their involvement, and how does that change the game?
Well, there's a number of things that can trigger the involvement. It doesn't have to cross state lines for the FBI anymore. There's a lot of different, I don't know, I'm not privy to the inside of this investigation, what triggered the FBI coming in. Although in many, many cases now, the FBI has a division that's set up to assist our local law enforcement, and we have budgets for that, and we have teams that do that. And so when I ran the FBI dive team, we often worked on purely local cases. We lent our assistance and our resources to them. But now, not only did the FBI do that from the beginning in this case, now it's actually taken over the investigative lead. Again, I'm not privy to it, but there's a number of different ways the FBI can get involved. What it means in this case is it brings in, like you're showing, the evidence response team, which is our CSI teams. They've recently again started researching areas that were previously searched, digging up construction sites where her former boyfriend had been building homes at the time of her disappearance and stuff. So we're going back, and it looks like they're going through the case again with a fine-tooth comb. They're probably re-interviewing people. They're researching areas that were searched already, because you can never do that enough in a case like this where it's still unsolved. It's not saying that it wasn't done properly the first time. It's just saying we're going to bring in more resources. Technology from 5 years ago to now, forensics, is forever increasing. So they're bringing more tools to the table. They're bringing more manpower to and they're bringing a higher profile. There's rewards now. There's the Crystal Rogers taskforce.com website, which I was on today. So I think that they bring more of a high profile to a case like this. Hopefully that generates leads. Hopefully the searching they've said they've come up with items of interest recently in some of these searches. So they ship those off to the FBI laboratory in Quantico for analysis, and hopefully they'll come up with something soon.
Yep, from your mouth to God's ears, and they've said they've done over 50 interviews in the community, and if need be, they're going to go back and do them again. Because I know from my experience, I'm sure from yours, in cases that I've been involved with, going back and interviewing someone 2, 3, 4 times, you never know what's going to jog their memory, when they're going to remember something. Those things tend to be fruitful. So I think that's what they're going to do here as well, and they'll keep working to find an answer to what happened to Crystal Rogers and her father. All right, a big thank you to our investigators, Bobby Chacon and Erica Morse. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks.
Always appreciate your insights. It is time now for a quick break, but there is still a lot more to come. So here's a look at what's coming ahead on Closing Arguments. In San Antonio, Texas, officers are pursuing a suspect when he pulls a gun. How did they handle it? We break down the video with our experts. In Atlanta, Georgia, officers work together to apprehend car thieves. What goes into this kind of coordination? Our law enforcement experts weigh in during crime time.
He's still hiding in the bushes. He's trying to come out now, though. I need to keep eyes on him. He's walking. He just tossed like a hat, I think.
916-6085 now.
It is crime time here on Closing Arguments. Let's bring in tonight's guest. Joining me, former Special Agent and Supervisor for the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Jason Piccolo. Jason has served in law enforcement for over 20 years and was a U.S. Border Patrol agent. He's a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom and has worked in human smuggling and international narcotics trafficking. He is also the author of Out of the Shadows and host of the Protectors podcast. Also with us, retired DEA Special Agent Ted Golden. Ted is a former Memphis police officer. He has 34 years of experience in law enforcement. He was with the Drug Enforcement Administration for 28 years. He is a trainer at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change, and he is a consultant with the DeKalb County, Georgia Juvenile Court. All right, gentlemen, our first story tonight comes to us from the San Antonio Police Department, where officers pursue a suspect who pulls a gun.
The uniformed officers who were in a police vehicle with subdued markings activated their emergency lights and attempted to stop Johnson. Johnson dropped his bike and ran from officers. The officers identified themselves as police, pursued Johnson into the embankment,
And the question that we're asking our law enforcement experts after watching this is, how did officers handle the pursuit? All right, Dr. Piccolo, let me start with you. First thing that jumps out at me about that video was how quickly it turned. You know, I'm looking at this guy, they're chasing a guy, just looks like a guy on a bike, comes out of the water, suddenly it's a whole different situation.
Yeah, as soon as he came out of the water, it looks like he trips, but then he moves up a little bit. But as soon as he turns, I mean, bullets travel over 1,000 feet per second. If he had time to pull that trigger, the officers had nowhere to go. There was no cover for there. So they could have been killed. So I think they had to use the force they did to stop the threat. But when I mention cover, that means the officers have nothing to stop that bullet from hitting them. So they had to do what they had to do, but it just turned super quick. I mean, all of a sudden he could have dropped the gun, but he didn't. He kept it, and then he made that furtive gesture.
Yeah, Ted Golden, I'd love to get you to ring in on this as well. Again, as I said, things turned so quickly. As I look at it, it didn't look like immediately when they slowed it down, he was turning towards the officers. But again, under these types of circumstances, you just can't wait. There's no cover.
Yeah, once you see gun, it's a whole different story. You have no cover, concealment. I like the way they were separated from each other. They weren't all on top of each other, so each one had a different angle, which is an asset, because then he can't turn and shoot both of them at the same time in the same area. So they handled it just about as well as it could be handled. It's just unfortunate the young man pulled a gun because, you know, when you get that tunnel, it's over. You have to protect yourself.
You know, Dr. Piccolo, when you see someone on a bike and then they jump off the bike and start running, once they see you, I would imagine, what starts going through the officer's mind? Certainly that changes the game as well.
Well, I think the backstory in this suspect as well is he was known to have a weapon or used a weapon previously. So a lot's going through their mind. Is he going to go find somewhere where he's going to get cover and engage them? Or is he going to just try to get away? And at this point, it looks like he was trying to get away when he looked like he couldn't get any further. You know, a lot of decisions were made. but everything is going through your head in that instant.
I wonder, Ted, if part of the reason why the shooting happened so quickly was, if you look at the area there, and it's very lucky, there's no one around. I mean, oftentimes when you see these types of chases, people tend to run into populated areas, places where there's homes, maybe kids playing outside, people in a park, you never know. This was an isolated area, which I think on one level made it safer to shoot, but also made it safer for the officers because, I mean, made it more dangerous for the officers because there was no cover.
Correct. You know, that's what I was talking about, the tunnel. When you get ready to shoot somebody, you get tunnel vision, and you really can't see beyond your like a horse. It's just straight in your face. So they were able to safely fire their weapons because there's nothing behind them. There's nobody. There's no store, no house, no car, no people. It makes it easier to make a decision because those things coming to bear. You got to make a quick decision when you decide to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and again, just shows the importance of these body cameras. You know, you can see what's going on. No question at all that this was a good shoot. All right, Dr. Jason Piccolo and Ted Golden, please stand by. We do have to squeeze in a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at some video out of Atlanta where an air unit helps track a suspect at night. Good stuff. Keep it right here on Court TV.
3.
Welcome back. It is still crime time here on Closing Argument, and our law enforcement expert, Dr. Jason Piccolo and Ted Golden, are still with us. All right, gentlemen, our next story comes to us from the Atlanta Police Department, where officers in the air units catch car thieves.
There's no police car behind him. We are high-rate speed eastbound Morris Mill. We're trying to catch up, but there's no police cars even near him.
Go ahead, 523. Radio.
Southbound Norwood Drive, southbound Norwood, 50 blocks out now, Tuxedo Road. Some apartments, I believe. He's going to bail here, just off our road. Passengers running, drivers running with him, northbound. Yep, you guys are right behind him. Keep going straight, go straight, go straight. It's the fence right up above you to the left. They just jumped that fence. They're in that parking lot.
I'm going to be at 3.
One's running northbound to the parking lot, the other one stayed westbound. He's still hiding in the bushes. He's trying to come out now, though. I need to keep eyes on him. He's walking. He just tossed like a hat, I think. He's walking on the sidewalk in the middle of the complex, 3057 going north. He's trying to go into Breezeway right now. I think the door's locked. He can't get in.
We have troopers
around the building, southwest side of the building. You saw you guys
running, so if they have extras in there to be helpful to get a perimeter.
He's
the middle running.
Units right on his tail for pursuit. Jumped the fence again to go back out to Court North. Still running through this parking lot. I got 55 for road. He's running. He's giving his hand. He's giving up. They got him at gunpoint. Good job, guys. Good job. He did throw a gun. I do see it now where they jumped the fence. I have eyes on the gun. Going right there. That's where they jumped it, and the gun is right on the other side of that fence.
And the question we have after watching this is, how difficult is this type of coordination? All right, Ted Golden, let me begin with you.
It is difficult when you first start, but once you get used to utilizing the clear unit and the spotters, man, it is fantastic because you got somebody that can explain everything to you, tell you where to go, what you're looking for, and the heat signature tells off on whoever's there with them, and you can go back and collect any evidence that's there. So the FLIR unit is a fantastic tool to help law enforcement do its job, and it's a safe tool because you can actually sit back if you're doing surveillance and let the helicopter and the FLIR unit follow these folks wherever they're going, and nobody can detect them until you're ready to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic to watch, Dr. Piccolo. You know, there's nothing more that I enjoy. We watch a lot of these videos. But when the law enforcement can outsmart these guys, you know, they're just, you know, they're going and doing these things, stealing cars. It's just so frustrating. And they think they can outsmart you, and they get outsmarted by this kind of coordination. Air support is just, it was awesome.
It's amazing. The other thing, too, is in the beginning of the chase, you hear there's no police cars around him, which is great because then you're not putting anybody in a dangerous situation, like a fleeing vehicle. So the more the police are able to back off with the assets up in the air, the easier it is later on to catch them because they're not putting everybody in deadly situations.
Yeah, and you know, you watch these guys running around, the heat signature, just really fantastic stuff. All right, our last story tonight comes to us from the Philadelphia Police Department, where 60 shots were fired at a basketball court. And the question we have for our experts is, what's the next step in this investigation? Dr. Piccolo, let me begin with you.
It's going to be tough. You know, they could track the vehicle. They could look at the ballistics off of any shell casings and whatnot. But the problem is a lot of these potential suspects and people around there probably know each other. So getting one of them to step forward and say, hey, such and such did the shooting is going to be pretty tough. So first thing off, track the vehicle, see where that leads and track down.
Ted Golden, he's exactly right. I would imagine these kids are all hanging out. And hopefully, you know, I don't know what they're involved in, but it's scary because, you know, I grew up hanging out in places just like that, and shots start ringing out, you start running. Chances are you start talking to them, they're not going to want to talk. They want to handle this themselves.
Yeah, unfortunately, you probably have to wait for someone to get caught doing something wrong and decide to tell on everybody else. And obviously, if you got good community policing going on, they already know who these people are. They've run into it before. They've already identified them. They know who they are, and they're just trying to figure out where they were and what they were doing. The great part about all this is everybody's got a cell phone. So if they've been caught before, their number's been in the system, they'll be able to figure out how many of them were there already. They might be able to do some great intelligence work and figure out who was there when it happened.
Yeah, Dr. Piccolo, Ted Golden said the magic word, community policing, or the magic words, community policing, because I would imagine community policing will give you answers relatively quickly. You could pretty much find out what happened, what went on. Now, whether you can do anything about it, collect the evidence, et cetera, is another thing, but you certainly can find out.
Yeah, community policing is, I mean, it's been a key word for decades now. The big thing is just to integrate with your community. Open those lines of communication and don't have that us versus them mentality. You know, I worked Philadelphia for years. It's an interesting city. So, yeah, you have to open up those lines of communication.
Yeah, communication is everything. All right, Dr. Jason Piccolo and Ted Golden, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It is time now for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We still need your help, folks.